All right, so Cora Staunton is in studio. How are you?
Not too bad now, Nathan. Good.
Your autobiography is out now. It's called Game Changer. This is what it looks like if you're heading to the shops before Christmas. It is the first autobiography ever by a female GAA player, which I'm sure you're pretty proud about.
Yeah, it's great that obviously, that the female GAA player makes a move and writes one. It's probably something I never really thought about doing, and I was probably approached a couple of times a few years ago to do it, and I was like, no, I don't want to do it, but I suppose then...
So why now?
Well, I suppose I thought it was important. You know, I've been doing a good bit of work in schools with LGFA and with Lidl, and before that I was with Sky Sports. And I suppose I go around and see a lot of young girls and boys, and you know, they're kind of inspired by me. And
so you got a good sense of actually the influence you can have.
Yeah. So the story I tell in the book is, you know, obviously when you go to school it's a lot shorter, but you kind of tell the similar story to boys and girls, you know, to inspire them. So I thought, why not put it down on paper? And you know, obviously being the first female GAA player to do it is nice, but the most important thing was to do it to inspire, I suppose, the next generation. And
that's an important thing to point out as well, particularly being from Mayo. Would have seen us, we're a similar age, and watching you progress with Mayo, you were always an inspiration for boys and girls. There was never really a separation, it felt like. Everybody in Mayo looked up to you and your achievements and were incredibly proud of them.
Yeah, I suppose. My career would have started off the boys, and I've played with the boys for quite a number of years. Played with Alan Dillon being the main one that I've played with in Ballintubber, but played with Ballintubber boys probably for about 6 years. And I suppose the main reason, I suppose, everyone would know me, and I've started really young with Mayo. Started at 13 and a half, 13 and 3/4 playing with the senior team, and kind of been a constant in it since. So I suppose that's, you know, why people know me. And I suppose in our glory days when I was younger, when we were kind of 17 to 23, we were in, you know, 5 All-Ireland finals with Mayo and winning 4. I suppose, you know, they were the real good times for Mayo football, and you became household names within the county then.
Yeah, there's a lot to get into. Your life's certainly deserving of an autobiography from, as you say, playing with Mayo when you're just 13, winning the 4 All-Irelands, difficult days on the pitch in Croke Park, difficult days off the pitch throughout your life, and leading all the way through to this year and the controversy and moving to Sydney. And we might get into all that. The one common thread throughout the autobiography was your unbelievable competitiveness. Like, there's a story inside the opening couple of pages of this that, like, in fairness, it is a testament to your honesty through this, because you talk about the community games when you're under 13 and you get to the community games final and you're playing a team from Kerry, and one of your teammates, Michelle McGing, probably the second best player in the team, she gets injured. So the manager, Eamon Chambers, makes a change and doesn't bring on the player you think he should bring on. He brings on another girl who's part of the local community, is in and around the squad, as I imagine everybody is, who's willing to take part. But he gives her chance because one of her parents has recently passed away, and it's the right thing to do. And even now, probably almost 30 years later, you're going, wasn't the right thing to do. We could have won that if he'd made the right substitution.
Yeah, probably. I know that probably sounds sad, but I don't know where that comes from, but certainly at the time, you know, I remember that. I remember the disappointment in Mosney. I think it was it was an under-14 competition, and myself and Michelle were 11 at the time, and that was our last time in Mosney because it had changed back to under-12 the following year. And I always remember in that final was against Beaufort to Kerry. I can remember the game clearly, and I'm making that decision and us losing the final by a point, and probably not being able to talk to him for a day or two afterwards because of the decision. And I suppose, that's the nature of it being a very competitive...
Did you tell him you were going to call him out in your autobiography about it?
No, I've met him. He was at the launch of the book, and, you know, we did have a laugh over it. You know, but that's the type of sports person you are. You know, that's built into you. You can't really change that. And as I said, when I was always going to write the book from the start, was going to be very honest. It wasn't going to be a book that, you know, was just fluffy. Tell it as I seen at the time.
You do say in those opening couple of pages that you were addicted to winning, and it did make me wonder when you look back on your career and a lot of the issues that have cropped up in Mayo both this year and a lot of nonsense that's gone over the last decade at times. Did you love playing football, or did you just love winning?
I know I love playing football. I love training. Even now, I love going out on the pitch. I love going to the gym. I love challenging myself, going to Australia, having a new challenge, all of that. I just love trying to push my body to the best I can, and, you know, to the limits that, you know, probably at times I'm pushing it now at 36 and I probably shouldn't be pushing, but I love I love the challenges. I absolutely love training. I know myself, I'm addicted to training. Even since we got knocked out with Carnacon on Saturday, it's still routine. I'm back in the gym on Monday. I'm back trying to practice my AFL skills on Tuesday. I'm back in the gym on Wednesday. It's just, it's an addiction to...
Yeah, there's almost Roy Keane levels of drive is what comes through in the book.
Yeah, and where does that... I don't know where it fully comes from. I think it comes from being part of a very successful club, and from an early age...
Is the club successful because of your drive?
Well, it's probably a mixture. It's a mixture of both. I think we're all very. I'm lucky. I came through in an era club that we had a very, very talented team. And underage through all our club levels. We lost one underage match from under 12. Barred the Mosney game, but with Carnacon we lost an under 16 county final. And again, I'll always remember that we didn't lose an underage. In my senior career with Carnacon within the county, we've lost one county final, winning our 20th this year. So it's just that drive. It's
and were
probably
you
a
injured
mixture.
The 1 year you lost?
I played, but I had broken my collarbone 3 weeks previous, so I missed the All-Ireland with Mayo. So I was half injured at the time. But it's probably a mixture of my drive, but also having very similar people in the club that are very driven, and then we've probably created a culture that anyone that comes in kind of fits into that, being very driven.
You were probably fortunate as well that your parents recognised that drive and the commitment that you were willing to give to the game at an early stage, even down to never try to steer you away from football. It seemed they're going out playing with the boys team. They even allowed you to decide what school you were going to go to. I think everyone in your locality would have gone to Ball Secondary School, but Ballinrobe was a better school for football, so they were happy enough to let you off.
I suppose when I was in 6th class, I knew by then I loved sport, and as I said, I'd been to community games and was playing with the boys team, and then I knew going to Ball wasn't an option because the only sport they offer girls was volleyball. I didn't mind playing volleyball, but I really wanted to play football. My football was really going well, and Ballinrobe were on a crest of a wave, winning school All-Irelands, and you had the likes of Denise Horn and the Heffernan sisters in there, and these were girls I looked up to. So I was going into first year in Ballinrobe saying I'm making that junior team and I'm making that senior team, and from there that obviously happened, and it was that just drive to be part of a team and been training. Did my mother and father, they never pushed me to sport or never pushed me away from it. They certainly never pushed me, just do whatever I was enjoying. They were trying to rear 8 of us, and we're all very close in age, and they weren't probably the ones that were able to bring me to training. Dad was a farmer, Mom was a housewife, but I had coaches around the locality that used to bring me to all my underage trainings or matches or whatever, so I was lucky from that point of view. Yeah,
it was a fairly normal Mayo upbringing, never asked for much, never wanted for much. How then, when you get called up, how do you end up getting called up to the Mayo senior squad at 13? How are you so good at such a young age?
Well,
when you look back now,
it's probably a little bit ironic, I suppose, at that age. But I had, after winning 2 All-Irelands with Ballinrobe in the school and in the junior and senior, and I was first year on the senior team, and we won an under 14 Féile with Carnacon, so that's like an All-Ireland club competition at under 14. So I had won kind of 3 All-Irelands within the space of 12 months, and you've become a bit of a household name, and at that stage was normal enough for underage girls to be playing their senior team. There was girls 16, when I went in that was playing, and I suppose I just got asked to go in for a trial and went in for the trial and kind of never looked back, and made my debut for Mayo in a league match in 95, and I think I ended up scoring 2-5, and then maybe that was probably my downfall, and from there
set the bar pretty high.
Yeah, set the bar pretty high, but from there, just absolutely loved competing and just loved training, and loved going out and playing for Mayo and playing for Carnacon and playing as much football as I can, playing any sport, it didn't matter. I love watching sport, I love playing all types of sports, so I'm a sports fanatic.
So was life pretty good by and large as a teenager, certainly in those early teenage years before your mother became ill? Because you say you are becoming a bit of a superstar, and you say in the book that one of the first questions people ask is, what's Cora like? And it's true at the time. I think I had cousins who were in school with you, and the first thing you would always say, what's she like? Everybody wanted to know. That's a tough thing to deal with when you're 15, 16.
Yeah, I suppose, so after I got called for the trial and made the Mayo team, it would have been shortly after that Mom would have got sick. So in some terms, life would have changed quite a lot for me in a home sense. Didn't really change much for me from sport, bar that, at the time, when I was kind of 13, 14, I was playing, I think, on about 13 to 14 teams at the time, because I was playing underage with Mayo, all underage and senior, and same with club. And then I was playing 2 school teams in Ballinrobe, and then I was playing soccer and basketball also in the school. So life was hectic, and then home life was obviously a little bit, there was turmoil happening. Mom got sick, and for back then, she's 20 years dead now, treatment was in Dublin, so she spent a lot of time going up and down to Dublin, and it was long chunks at a time. It might be 8 weeks she'd go up to Luke's, and we might see her maybe one Sunday, and then 8 weeks we get to go up, west of Ireland. Trying to get to Dublin back then wasn't a thing that was hard to do.
Sure.
So life was difficult, and I was coming home from school, walking that mile, getting off the bus, walking that mile, and Mom would be sick, she'd be on the couch. So it was all that.
But what was ahead of you when you got into the door?
Yeah, exactly. But as a teenager, you just had to get on with it. You had no choice. You just got on with it. So yeah, it was a difficult time, but sport was there for me all the time. I was away a lot from the house, so it was good for me when I look back.
Yeah, you're what, 16 when your mother died then in the end? It's clearly such a devastating experience, and kind of get the sense during the book, you could ask how you coped with it, that maybe even now you're not sure how you coped with it, that it was just a case of you just got on with things.
Yeah, it's
just this underlying sadness, but just getting on with things.
Yeah, and it happens to so many people. Rural Ireland 20 years ago, anything happens in any household, death happens. We're a big family, 8 kids, and you have to get on with it. We don't sit down and go around the table and start talking about our feelings or how we eat or how we getting on. It was life. It happened. After the first month, you move on. You don't have a choice. You go back to school, and life becomes normal again, and you have to just get on with it. And I suppose that's the biggest thing writing the book that I found 20 years later, or probably 19 years later at the time when the book was being written, and sitting down talking to my ghostwriter about how I felt in that time. That was probably the first time I ever talked about my mother to anyone else and how I was feeling at that time. And I suppose you look back and you're wondering how you still have all them emotions and them clear, vivid memories of instance from 20 years ago. And I suppose that's where you hold everything so deep inside you, and that you can remember it all. Is
that just an Irish thing? We'd Shay Given in here around this time last year, and Shay had released his autobiography, and Shay's mother died when he was very young. And he said the same thing. Yeah. When he wrote his autobiography, it was actually the first time he'd sat down with somebody and spoken about the emotion of it. Yeah, it is. It's definitely an Irish thing. Maybe not today, but I think certainly 20 years ago or whatever, maybe things are more open now. But back then it was just like things happen. Whatever happened back then, you just got on with it and moved on, and life moved on, and you had to. So it was difficult from that point of view. The first kind of few sessions I had around the book I found difficult. I found I was mentally exhausted after it. You must get a real sense though from your family of the pride that is there with having had such a loss at 16, what you've been able to go on and achieve with your life. Yeah, I suppose the biggest thing I found from it after Mom died, 13 months later we'd have been in the All-Ireland with Mayo. Unfortunately for me, I didn't get to play. I got injured the week before. But that kind of next 5 or 6 years of the journey that we had with Mayo, winning the 4 All-Irelands and doing really well, kind of helped our family cope with Mom's death. The distraction. Because it was a distraction, and my father started to get to know the players and parents of all the players, and my sisters and brother. They kind of we ended up. We had an outlet that maybe wasn't there from before. It certainly wasn't there, and we all became like an extended family. Everyone's family knew everyone, so we were off playing matches or All Irelands, and we're off celebrating. So that distraction was there for about 6 years, which was brilliant. At the time you didn't think it, but when I looked back again, you think that was brilliant for Dad. It was brilliant for my sisters, brilliant for my brothers, that we had them really good glory years for Mayo 6 years after Mom died. The glory years, they came sort of out of the blue, it seems. That start of the 99 season, you're struggling even for numbers at Mayo training, and you end it in an All-Ireland final. Even now, almost 20 years on, is that still very much a bittersweet day? You mentioned you broke your collarbone a week beforehand. You're given this sort of token gesture, which I'm sure you appreciate still, of going on for 45 seconds at the start of the game. You win the All-Ireland, but you're not really a part of it. Yeah, of course it's bittersweet. At the time, after having to, as I said, it was 13 months after Mom died, and having to deal with that, and you think, life is, things are turning around and things are good for you, and then that happens, and you're like, it was very hard as a 17-year-old. I was in 5th year at school to have to deal with it. But you deal with it after 2 or 3 days. You're only one individual on the team, and you either can sulk for the week and feel down and sorry, or you help your team in some way and get on with it. And again, I was very lucky. I had with Finbar was our coach at the time, and he was brilliant with me. There was for their few days leading up to it, there was a chance that they were going to try and play me. Finbar Egan. Yeah.
So like I had, for the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I was at different physios and different people trying to see is there any way I could play, but it ended up being impossible that I wasn't going to be able to play. But you just accept it and you move on. And obviously winning the All-Ireland, makes all that pain and stuff go away. But it probably again made me a little bit more driven, if that was possible, for the next season, that I knew we had to get back to Croke Park. I had to be able to play there, and I needed to win an All-Ireland while playing on the pitch.
So is that 99 medal separate to the rest of the medals?
Yeah, well, yeah, no, like, medals aren't important to me. If you're asking me where my All-Ireland medals are now, they're probably somewhere in the attic. It's not. It's the game. It's been there, and once the game is over, that's it done. You kind of don't really look at the achievements or medals. It's the memories that you make from the years. We've a WhatsApp group set up there a couple of weeks ago because we've a reunion coming up for 99 now, 20 years. God, it makes you feel old. But it's the memories. I wouldn't have met some of these girls. I'd say some of them easily in 18 years. I've met some of them loads of times since, but some of them, and when you sit down together, it'll be the memories and the stories and the cracks and what we done on the bus and our trips to Balmullet and, the stories that you'll be able to tell and the connection you're going to instantly have with these people that you haven't seen in years.
You must have brilliant memories of the homecomings. I remember vividly the homecomings to Ballyhonus in 99. It was late at night. Same age, 17, 18, we were let loose on the town as he took hours and hours. I think he went through pretty much every town in Mayo.
Yeah, we did, I remember we came into Shrule in 99 and then we made everywhere. We came into Ballyhonus at 2:45 in the morning and I remember the whole team at the time and management stayed in Margaret Byrne's house, Yvonne, her mother's house in Knox Street, which was a 3-bedroom house, and there must have been about 35 to 40 people staying in the house. And we woke up the next morning and she had everyone's T-shirts washed and had breakfast on for us at about 9 o'clock in the morning.
Margaret.
Yeah, so just vivid memories from Ballyhonus, everywhere. We used to always go to Balmullet on the Friday after All Ireland and stay in a hotel, and you could still tell stories from them nights. So, it was magical.
Was it 99 where you said the line of we did what the men couldn't do?
Yeah,
one major regret.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. At them times you weren't too often on any form of mic or radio or TV. And I think it was Jim Carney come up to me straight away after the match and ran to the sideline and said that stupid line. As a 17-year-old, it's certainly one thing.
Galway man out to get you.
Yeah, exactly. But that was just emotion at the time.
Yeah.
And I suppose the Mayo men had been lucky in 96 and 97 in previous years.
It's like you say, it's almost 20 years now, and still we're having conversations about the place of women's sport and the coverage of women's sport, and there's some really good initiatives taking place over the next little while. You think back to nights like that in Ballyhonus, and there are thousands of people. Nobody cared whether it was the men or women coming home with the All-Ireland. All that mattered was that it was the All-Ireland.
Yeah, and I suppose, is there any madder county for GA than Mayo? No, there's not. Honestly, they were absolute magical moments. Yeah, and we do talk about women's sport, and 20 years on, has it improved? Of course, it has. The standard has gone up, tenfold. We look at the attendance and stuff; they've gone up tenfold. There's still loads of things to work on, for women's sport and to get equality with the men. But it'll eventually happen. It's steps, it's small steps forward all the time. But I suppose to be, at the All Ireland this year and watching Dublin and Cork and to see it breaking over 50,000, they're steps. But as a person coming home and a proud Mayo person and following the lads for years and continue to do so, the moments and coming home and seeing grown people cry and you're bringing the cup across in Shrule there on the Galway Mayo border, they're memories that live in your life and that you'll take to your grave.
Those must have been some pretty sweet years then when you're winning those 4 All-Irelands and you are becoming this genuine national star. You're in ads with Ronan O'Gara and Damien Duff. It seems it's a very strange existence, I would imagine, from where you were coming from 5-6 years previously. You're still very young at the time. I was probably 17, 18 at the time when all that kind of ads started happening and different deals. And again, I was probably the only female GA star to get them. I was really awkward in all of the moments. I absolutely didn't like them. I didn't, while it was lovely, I loved meeting Ronan O'Gara and looking, absolutely idolised him, but a lot of the time I felt uncomfortable. And I suppose in the book I speak about, different things, being at a function with Bertie Ahern and looking for what table I'm going to be at, and then we're suddenly realising I'm at the top table beside him. And I'm 20 and I'm going, why am I here? And that feeling of being really uncomfortable at them events, it wasn't me. I didn't want to be there. I just wanted to be out playing football and, winning matches or whatever. And they were all sideshows. And a thing, probably till I got to nearly 30, that I really struggled to be at. And even now at times,
I struggle to be at certain events that there's that uncomfortableness and, you know, having to make the conversation with people, and you're wondering, you know, why am I standing beside Sonia O'Sullivan, or, you know, why am I standing beside some other famous person? I never have myself on the same level as them. They're up here to me, and, you know, I'm down here, and I think I really struggled to deal with that.
In a way, maybe in your early 20s, it was no bad thing to struggle with, in the way that there was no arrogance creeping in at any stage. You were saying very much grounded that, and you still had that drive to keep going, to prove yourself constantly, that kept you going. And I'd say there was probably no shortage of people to keep you grounded. You talked about your family, but it's clear in this as well. And maybe it's after the loss of your mother, like, your friends, there's almost chapters dedicated to Yvonne Byrne, Claire Egan, Caroline Brennan, those people who, it really feels, regardless of the medals, made those years what they were for you.
Oh, completely. And they're the people that you need in your life, and even now they're in your life when, you know, they're there through the good and bad times. And that's where I'm lucky enough. I had very, very, very good friends, and friendship was probably a thing for me in my early days in school, because I went to a secondary school that was different to my whole primary school. And, you know, you went from 100 kids to 850 kids, and I didn't know anyone going to secondary school, only my brother, and struggled in them first few years to make friends. I knew the importance of friends in sport, because they were the ones that were very similar to you, and were, you know, maybe had that drive and wanted to be you. So, yeah, certainly during them times, you know, I talk about Yvonne, or as I call her, Crazy is her nickname, you know, probably been my shield for a lot of my life. And, you know, she's one of these people that'll talk, you know, she talked hind legs of a donkey even now. Like, she loves, you know, that side of, and I'm the type person that'll be in the back. So she was my shield. She'd come to functions with me, and I'd leave her out there talking, and I could be in the background. And whether she's talking to Maurice Fitzgerald or if she's talking to Brian Cody, that's brilliant to me. I'll say hello and get the picture, and then I can go back and sit down, but she'll do all the talking. So from a point of view, it was, you know, I had lucky people, you know, and that's one thing my mother taught me, always to be very, you know, humble and you know, as a young person growing up in a big family, when you had brothers there and they were always keeping you grounded, and you're in a big family, you had to fight for everything, so you're never going to get a run away with yourself. Did
it piss you off when you saw some of the first headlines in the book were, Cora, I'm not gay?
Yeah, of course it did, but, you know, that's media, they have to pick it out. And, you know, I suppose that was a conversation I had with Mary. You know, I suppose in Ireland today you have norms, and if you come into your 30s, you're expected to be married and have kids, and if you don't have that then, and you don't have a boyfriend hanging off you, then there's something. People obviously genuinely think, oh, there must be something she doesn't. And I think from a point of view of young people growing up now, rural Ireland 20 years ago is a lot different to rural Ireland now. But growing up, when you were 16, 17 back in rural Ireland, you know, I've plenty of friends, you know, that are gay now. But back then they would have struggled with their sexuality, and to tell their parents or to tell their friends. And I suppose it's really important that I wanted young people nowadays to say that, you know, and it's brilliant, society has changed nowadays, that they can be whoever they want to be. I go into schools and I tell kids, you know, you don't ever have to be fit into the norm, and whatever the norm is, I don't know, but be whoever you want to be, and don't be afraid to express it. And I suppose I really wanted to address it in the book, and, you know, to my friends that, you know, a number of them that, you know, are gay, and they go out and they know, you know, if they're gone out in Dublin somewhere and I want to go out and socialise with them, you know, I struggled when I was younger to be able to do that because of identity.
What might be other people's assumptions.
Yeah, exactly. Other people's assumptions of who you are. And I suppose it was, you know, I was lucky enough that friends that didn't mind that and would always come and socialise in spots that I was socialising. So I think it was just important to address for young people today that they know growing up, be whoever you want to be, and don't be afraid.
Yeah, you really don't think of that sort of impact. You're almost afraid of going out with your friends because suddenly stories will get back home with, and we know Mayo, the way stories spread like wildfire.
Yeah, and I just thought, you know, it's really important that, you know, just because, you know, when you get into your 30s, if you're not married and you don't have kids, that's fine. You know, as I said, everyone is whoever they want to be, and if you do, that's brilliant. You know what I mean? Of course, someday I'd love to be married and have kids. If it happens, it happened. But, you know, your life goes down a certain path, and whatever path goes down, you just have to be happy with it.
After the success then and winning the 4 All-Irelands, like the difficult years from sort of 0-5 on, now when you look back, it seems like such a waste with the amount of goodwill and talent that was there towards this team, the never-ending issues that turned out with the county board, where it certainly feels from the book, even you get the sense that maybe they thought you were getting too big for your boots at times. Like, when you look back, do you think you could have handled things differently? You possibly could have handled things differently. You know, at the time, I suppose,
one of probably the biggest things that happened, and I've talked to Fimber since about this. He read the book there, and I've talked to him, and he was like, "Oh God, we let a few All Irelands go. I shouldn't have gone." And I was like, "No, you shouldn't." But that was another side thing. But I think looking back, he had set such high standards for us from '99 to 2004. And, he was way ahead of his years in strength conditioning and video analysis and stuff that wasn't really happening around then. And then when he went, and we didn't have that, we were always looking for that. We were always looking for the level we were at, and we were always looking for managers at the level that he was at. And when we weren't getting that, we knew that was the level that we needed to get to win the All-Ireland. And when that standard dropped, we knew we were never going to get back there.
Yeah. And when you say we there, do you mean the core group of 4 or 5, or was that very much you driving that on? Because
that wasn't even the core group of 4 or 5. That was everyone. That was the whole team. And what would have happened then from, we'd say, 2005 to 2007, girls that were starting to get fed up with it and were like, this is not going to work out. We're not getting the quality of management in. I'm going on a J1, or I'm going here, I'm going concentrating on another sport, which was fair enough. And then I suppose Frank came in 2007. A lot of the core group were still there. There was still a good few changes. We had a lot of younger ones in, and his standards were quite good, quite high. And again, that was shown. We got to a league final. We'd bet Cork for the first time, I think, in 20 odd games. We got to the All-Ireland final and lost the All-Ireland final. And all of a sudden, Frank was gone, and then no manager put in place. So I think, as a group, we knew that we had lost, an excellent manager, and there was years lost. There was girls that just walked away from it because they were fed up with it, and they were fed up with the county board changing manager upon manager upon manager. And if you want to do well in any sport, you need that consistency of managers for a number of years. Yeah.
How personally demanding were you during those times?
No, not at all. No.
Because to be honest, and it's probably a testament to your honesty through this, and it's funny, I mentioned Roy Keane. I think almost there's similarities. It feels that you're very demanding in it, and you are an elite sports person, and you were very demanding in what was an amateur organisation in so many ways, that you looked at things in a very professional way of people who were very much amateurs.
Yes, but it wasn't just me. There was people with me driving it. But I suppose when you're the leading light, or you're that, maybe the star, you're always kind of grab their attention. There was more people that wanted that drive for eliteness, whether it was Yvonne, who was another one, who was Claire Egan, Fiona McHale. There was loads of people, I could name a load. But we just wanted, basic things that we were asking for that we weren't getting. And I think, you were dealing with county boards that, would be there a year, gone a year, that wanted certain different things and didn't know what it took to the top. Because when Fimber stepped away, the whole county board that was under Fimber were gone as well. So it was a whole new county board in. And again, probably not taking women's sport very serious and not taking Mayo Ladies very serious. And we knew as a group that the talent that we had in a group, and we knew that if we could get the best out of that talent, we'd be competing with Cork. And Cork obviously went on their run. And we looked on with envy what Cork then had, what we used to have, the Damon Ryan and the consistency of him and what he brought to the team. And they went on and won 10 or 11 All Irelands under him, which was magical. But at the time,
during your best years,
during our best years, and it's interesting because I'm very friendly with some of the Cork girls. I'm very friendly with Breed Stack, and I had a message from Elaine Hart after she read the book a couple of weeks ago, and she said, "I never knew the amount of stuff that you went through down there. Jesus, you really did let some All Irelands go, and this is against your biggest rival and your competitor." But as a sports person, that's sport you have to take on, on the chin. You're lucky enough to win. To me, it's a disappointment. And I certainly think within them years, we could have won another couple of All Irelands. We could have gone on and went on and won 2 or 3 more.
What motivated you most during your career?
Even now, the challenge is something new. Every year is new.
There's a reason I ask, because I was wondering, was it at times, I don't want to say a personal grudge, but one of the most interesting stories is of the day of the 2017 All-Ireland final. So I'm sure a lot of people listening will remember the comments that Mick Bohan made, the Dublin manager, the week beforehand against you personally, about intimidating referees, knowing how to get frees, cynical, all of that. You're on the bus to the All-Ireland final. I'm sure most of your teammates are listening to music, getting themselves in the mood. You're listening to a recording of Mick Bohan's comments. That seems pretty remarkable. Is that, I don't know, would a psychologist not tell you that's an incredibly negative mindset to be going into an All-Ireland final with?
Possibly. I don't probably talk to too many sports psychologists. I suppose we all motivate ourselves in different ways for different matches, or get up in different ways for matches. Obviously what Mick's comments at the time were very disappointing, but as a manager, if I was in Mick's shoes, it was played very, very well. Do you know, I wouldn't personally have anything against Mick.
He obviously said they were taken out of context.
After the context was taken, after the time, and that's fine. You know, looking back at him, fair play to me, is dead right, and you know he's done brilliant with that Dublin team and done brilliant with them this year. But I suppose everyone is motivated differently. When we were on a bus, we'd have girls some of them be chatting away, or some of them would be eating food, or some of them be sitting. I'd be the one sitting in a corner on my own, motivating myself to try and be the best I can be on any given day. So that's just me. I just thought that's what I needed, that little bit of extra something to motivate me on the day. Was it right or wrong? Who knows? Obviously, probably wasn't the best thing if we don't win the All Ireland, but if you win it, it is. But different things motivate you, I suppose.
The book goes right up to this season and the falling out with Peter Leahy, the decision of yourself and 11 more players to walk away from the panel. The book finishes, is it where both sides have agreed to say nothing? It's sort of before all the back and forth in the media started. Yeah. Where does it stand right now? Have you had any contact with Peter Leahy or the Mayo County Board over the last few weeks?
The only I have absolutely no comment or no phone call or anything from Peter. I haven't talked to Peter since he left the team. With the county board, we've had interaction with them because of the whole appeal system with the club and stuff like that, so you've had to have interact with them at meetings, but nothing from a level of anything else. Where it stands at the moment, I won't be putting on the Mayo jersey personally myself again. This year would have been my last year. It's disappointing that the way it ended. I suppose the biggest disappointing thing for me is that there's 11 girls, probably at least 7 or 8 of them that are in their prime or haven't even reached their prime, that won't play with Mayo in the near future, which is really disappointing for Mayo itself, because these are some of the best footballers that the county's ever produced, and some of the best underage talent coming through, and some of them are as young as 19 and 20 and have their whole careers ahead. And some of them are club mates of mine, some of them are best friends of mine, and that's the disappointing thing, that going forward for them and for Mayo football, it's not good, because Mayo football need them and they need Mayo football. Yeah,
it was obviously an incredibly difficult time for everybody involved on both sides, and got pretty unsavoury and just very messy with the different interactions, and probably no actual interaction between both sides. The one line I think that still lingers is the line about it being not being a safe environment, not being a healthy environment. Do you have any regrets about that language? Did you go a step too far with that?
No, I don't think I went a step too far. I suppose the most disappointing thing for me is when all this we'd say the saga developed and blew up and was trawled through the media for months, was that never needed to happen. If there was a strong enough body, whether it was Mayo County Board or the LGFA, that stepped in straight away and dealt with the issues, and that's the really disappointing thing. These issues have never been dealt with. We're 4 months on.
Did you understand the full weight of your words when you talk about an unsafe environment? Because it's almost too ambiguous in that it leaves it open to people's imagination, and people automatically assume the worst of what happened.
I understand that. I suppose the most important thing when you use words that can be taken in many different contexts is that's the thing. To me, from a point of view, when I use the words, that's the reason I stepped away. Yeah, obviously we can have perceptions of what unsafe and what unhealthy are. But,
what's your perception of?
Well, from why, and I suppose the girls have come out in media and said it, and again, majority of the girls have never been contacted by anyone from the media, bar myself, or from anyone in LGFA. When we talked about unsafe and unhealthy, we were always on about their mental well-being. And there's girls' mental well-being that really suffered and still is suffering because of the environment that they're in. And that's why I use the words and the terms that they need to step out of that environment, because it wasn't healthy or wasn't safe for their mental health. And from a personal point of view, I walked away in solidarity with them girls, and I was worried, genuinely worried about some of them girls' mental health, and still to this day genuinely worried about certain girls that had to leave their environment because of their mental health. So that's the context of the words that I was using. It was all around their mental well-being. And the disappointing thing is I've talked to these girls as last week, a couple of days ago, there's a number of girls 4 months on that are struggling really badly, and have not. Some of these have never been contacted by Mayo County Board or by LGFA. And that worries me, that as an organisation, player welfare, and welfare is an issue that people think about dressing rooms or pitches or, getting food after training. That's not it. About their welfare. And as an organisation...
And what about the WGPA? Have they been involved?
The WGPA, in fairness to them, has helped as much as they can. They've offered help to the girls, and girls have sought professional help because of it, and they've offered it. But, they've done as much as they can. The WGP are a small enough organisation. They have stepped in and have offered help to the girls, and girls have taken it up. But, this is a thing that never really needed to be brought out in the media and dragged through the media for the last 4 months. It was dealt with initially, I think it was around the 2nd or 3rd of July, it was dealt with. We've cried out and asked for help from the organisation. Our club has done the same thing, and nothing has come back. So if someone walks away, we were at an appeals committee, and again, I'm not going to go into the whole thing, where we won our appeal for a club, and we told delegates of that appeals committee exactly what happened, and that's probably about a month ago now. And if we haven't still been contacted since that to say what's gone on.
So you've gone into specific detail with that appeals committee?
With that appeals committee, because it was the only way. If we didn't go into it, Carnacon wouldn't have been allowed into any championship. Right. So we felt we didn't want to, because it's not a forum.
Are you happy to make that public, or is that still very much a private affair? Into the specifics of what actually happened?
Well, it's not my story to tell. I can't talk on behalf of 11 other girls and 2 other members of management. As I said, the main reason that I walked away was because in solidarity with the girls. So it's not my story to go and tell the number of other girls' stories.
Peter Leahy obviously has a very different viewpoint on what happened, and has been backed by the county board, and has just agreed a new, is it a 3-year deal to stay on? And will have everybody except the 12 available next season, more than likely. Have you had any contact with any of your other former teammates?
I have met some of them in passing in the street, and
is that relationship just broken down completely? Or?
Certain relationships with certain players have broken down. Other ones that you'd say hello to, we wouldn't probably get into the specifics when you meet them. But there is certainly the relationships have broken down with certain girls, I'd say, which to me is really disappointing, because outside of the football field, you have friendships with girls that you've been playing with for a long time, and that you might have known for the last 10 years, and it's sad that them relationships have broken down. And again, are they ever going to be repaired? Who knows? Yeah.
Was this an inevitable clash of personalities between yourself and Peter Leahy, that he's very much an autocrat and you're somebody who is always questioning of authority, always demanding a little bit more?
Yeah, it's nothing to do with me and Peter Leahy. That's where it's all gone wrong. The media has put it between Cora and Peter Leahy. It's not about Cora and Peter Leahy. Again, I have to reiterate, there's 11 other girls that walked away.
And for you personally, from that initial meeting where it was clear that something was changing in your role in the squad?
I get on with it. I wanted to play for Mayo. I knew I was fit enough to play for Mayo. Whatever role I played for Mayo, I started in the Connacht final. I finished the Connacht final. So, that wasn't an issue with me. I had no issues with Peter. Me and Peter were in contact from the minute I left in December till I come home in April. There was text messages over and back from Australia saying, well done in a match, how are you getting on? We were talking about football. So there was contact with me and Peter all the time. Realistically, there was no issue between me and Peter. When I came back into Mayo this year, after a break after the league final, I just put my head down and trained, had conversations with Peter telling me I'm playing the best football, and he said that I'm in the best shape I've ever seen. That was probably 2 weeks out from the Connacht final. So there was no issue between me and Peter. It was never an issue between me and Peter. Again, it was because the treatment of other girls that I was seeing. And as a young person, when I was growing up, I was always told to follow these morals and principles, and that's all I was doing. And again, this is where it's all gone wrong. It's been made out to be about Cora and Peter, because Cora is the big name, and for I'd say a few weeks or maybe months afterwards, it was probably only Cora, Sarah Tierney and Fionn McHale that left the panel. No one ever even knew who the other 9 girls were. And I think it's highly disrespectful that people think that 11 other girls will walk away with me. You're talking to girls that have been playing, Fionn McHale, who's been playing for Mayo for the guts of 15, 16, 17 years, Sarah Tierney, who's been playing for 10 years, Martha Carter, who's been playing for the guts of 15 plus years as well. that's highly disrespectful to these girls, that people would think that they just walk because of a selection issue over me.
Yeah.
Do you know, it's disappointing from that point of view. But, you know, as I said, I go back to the crux of it. This should never have been washed out through the media. We want is the best for Mayo football. And the biggest disappointing thing is that no one, to this day, 4 months or a little bit over 4 months on, has ever talked to certain players on the Mayo team. And I think that's really disappointing. The girls have given service and that are really struggling. You know, no one has ever contacted Sarah Tierney, our captain of the team, no one from the county board, no one from LGFA, nobody has ever contacted her once she left that Mayo team.
Yeah, well, I think we'll have to follow up on that with the LGFA, certainly. Ultimately, it's all just very sad on a number of levels.
Yeah.
And for you personally, you know, Mayo's greatest ever player, to see 20 years, more than 20 years of your life end like this, like it must be particularly upsetting. Yeah,
well, I suppose, you know, there's no point lying. The last few months haven't been easy, and they've been very difficult. But, you know, as I go back to it, I'm very lucky. I've played with Mayo for 24 seasons. I've won 4 All-Irelands. I've won national leagues. You know, I've been lucky. I've come from a brilliant club and have won a huge amount with them. But I go back to it, you know, I've had my career with Mayo. You know, I'm 36 years of age, but there's girls that are only at the start of their career. They're 19 and 20, and girls that are in their prime. They haven't been lucky enough to win an All-Ireland with Mayo, or haven't been lucky to have a long career with them. And these girls need to be back playing with Mayo, whether it's next season or wherever it is, and they need to be given the opportunity to go back with Mayo and play with them next year. That's the most disappointing thing.
Would you encourage them to go back under this management team?
That's their decision. At the moment, I can't see that happening at all. That they'd go back under that management team. But again, there needs to be someone in the national governing body that comes down and tries to fix this, because it hasn't been tried to be fixed. And I think it's really important that they get the opportunity, that they go back, whenever it is, that they go back and get the opportunity to play with Mayo, because they're some of the best footballers there and the most talented footballers coming up. And if Mayo ladies want to get to the top and get to Croke Park and hopefully win All-Irelands, they're going to need these players.
We got to wrap it up. You're heading back to Australia now, though. I would say you just need to turn your phone off for a couple of months and somehow try and blank this all out. Are you looking forward to just getting away from it and getting back to playing a bit of AFL?
Yeah, obviously it's a disappointing end to the season with the club losing the Connacht final at the weekend. Obviously that's disappointing. But, you know, one will have to pick herself up from and, you know, get on next year. But certainly, Australia, as I said earlier on, it's the challenge. And, you know, last year was quite successful for me over there. I didn't do too bad, but, you know, there's a lot of improvement, you know, into pre-season now in the next couple of weeks, and, you know, into games. Then, you know, I've still a lot to learn. It's very new game for me. But yeah, certainly looking forward to coming back. And, you know, the main thing is that the body holds up for the next 5 or 6 months, and that I can continue to play at a high level. Well, the very best of luck with it. Congratulations on the book. It's just nominated today on the short list, the long list for the Ayr Sports Book of the Year. Well done with it, and thanks a million for coming in. Thanks a million, Nathan. Great to be in.